welcome back to Southwest Yard and Garden. I'm Curtis Smith. Today I'm visiting with Judy Nickel. She's one of our master gardeners in the Albuquerque area, and she's been diagnosing some of the problems we have in this area at this time of the year. Judy, what are we looking at?
Well, this is a 4 o'clock plant, but this particular problem is not limited to 4 o'clocks. There's a little weevil that makes these little holes.
Long and narrow.
Long and narrow, and sometimes in the shape of a J. They start from the outside of the leaf and work in. Mm-hmm. And if you can see, I don't know if you can get all of that little detail in there. They attack all kinds of plants. This is a 4 o'clock. This is on an aster. Same little creature here at the end. And the red bud seedling that came up, and it has the same kind of creatures right in here. Now, you have to tell the difference, too, between the weevil and the leafcutter bee. Now, the perfectly round ones, like a paper punch, are leafcutter bees.
And this was something discussed in the southern part of the show, and now we see them working up here as well.
That's right. The little bee uses these in making her nest. She doesn't eat them. And so you can't control them, but that's the only damage they do is those little paper punch holes.
But they're nice and round and oval, whereas the weevil, because it has that long snout, is able to dig a deep cut into the leaf.
Yeah, and it makes a very different hole. Here's another one, kind of almost like a J shape. He comes in and he makes a little bend.
So that's the weevil.
And over here he's taken enough off that you can't even get the rest of the leaf. So there's, and then there's also some other little holes in here that are probably from snail or some other creature. The damage that these cause is fairly minimal, and there really isn't that much need to try to control them unless you're going to exhibit them in a flower show of some kind. So that's what we have here on these little insects.
That's something that's working around this area pretty diligently these days.
Yes.
Minor problem, but at least lets you know that the problem's there, and if it gets bigger, you know what to deal with.
Yeah, if it starts to really doing serious damage, you can do some control. These little guys, the weevil works at night, so you never even see the guy, unless you're out there at night with a flashlight, and I've never tried that.
Judy, a lot of people are interested in what vines they can grow in northern New Mexico, and you brought some samples of some unusual vines.
Right. I mean, everybody knows wisterias and honeysuckle and stuff, so I brought a couple of odd little vines. This is Solanum dulcamera. You said the common name was?
I believe this one's matrimony vine.
Matrimony vine. There's a one that is not hardy with white flowers called a potato vine. They are in the same family with potatoes and tomatoes. This little vine is not very vigorous, and you do need to train it to go up and tie it up as it grows. It doesn't seem to want to curl around like other vines do. And it's a small vine. It would do nicely, let's say, around a lamppost or something of that sort. Probably about as vigorous as a clematis, which is not very vigorous, and you can keep them well controlled. This thing will makes little red berries later on. These little berries will turn red, and they're very attractive. They may be, I've not seen this on any poison plant list, but you know, some of these things tend to be that way.
In the group Solanum, I recommend we don't eat them unless we know they're edible.
That's right. Potatoes are edible, but that's down below.
Parts of potatoes are edible and parts are poison,
that's right.
That's why we need to be careful with
the edible parts are underground. This is above ground. Anyway, it's a nice little vine for a small area. Then there's a super vigorous vine. This is one little end piece of Paraploca graecea.
That's one I've never heard of before.
This is the Grecian silk vine.
Ah, yes, I do know that one.
And this thing is extremely vigorous.
Yes.
And this will cover huge areas in no time at all. And this is just parts of one that got out of hand. And had to cut it off. And it has a milky sap. It's in the milkweed family. And it makes some little blue flowers early in the spring. They're finished blooming at this time of year. And they are, this thing is, and it sends up shoots everywhere, but not from the roots, but just the vine will grow along the ground, and then it'll crawl up the first thing it can crawl up.
You want to be careful where you put it, that it doesn't strangle something that's desirable.
That's right. This thing was, the reason I cut this one back was it was strangling a rose bush. And so you have to be real careful with it and keep an eye on it, because once it starts growing big, it's big, but it would be good on a chain link fence where you want some privacy, or on a large gazebo type thing, somewhere where you want some shade and you want privacy. But
Is this one deciduous?
yes, these are both deciduous. Both of these vines are deciduous.
So they won't have leaves in the winter, but
No.
they really grow fast and cover
Yeah.
things up in the spring.
Well, and they cover it up in the winter. Once you get all these stems in there, you still have some privacy.
Well, Judy, I see something that's real common here in Albuquerque, especially during monsoon season.
Well, this is powdery mildew, and powdery mildew likes the hot days, cool nights, and night watering. These plants are not watered at night, but somebody in the neighborhood waters at night. And so they get powdery mildew, and the sweet pea vine is just notorious for getting powdery mildew. Other plants will get it too, roses,
A lot of our lilacs will get
lilacs, lots of plants will get powdery mildew.
it. Seen it on grapevines. Sometimes it doesn't show up as the powdery white material. You just get a necrotic patch in the leaf,
Yeah.
a dead spot. But
This is a little bit older, but you can see all of these dead spots on there.
the leaves starting to dry out. Even the tendrils are beginning to dry up in it. So it's really beginning to affect
Getting
this
to
plant.
be brittle, yeah.
Is it affecting the flowers?
Well, this has never been a good bloomer to begin with. So the flowers are there, but it's not a real prolific bloomer.
Okay. Judy, thank you for bringing in all these things, the problems that people are seeing here now, the unusual vines. These are things that are very important for people in northern New Mexico to know. Thank you.